It's only the first slide still.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to be actually on my thing. So hold on. Now is it the?
It's working.
Okay. Okay. So I can't switch between the live stream and the slides.
Still learning to nerd.
Yes.
Hi everyone, welcome.
Oh, I'm getting feedback from my own self on. Ah, damn it.
We've got some technical things to work out.
Carry on nerding.
Hello. Okay, now you should see our speakers right now.
Okay.
Okay. Katie, could you check the YouTube streams?
Yeah, I can see it. It's running. I can hear my own voice. It's very strange.
Yeah, okay, yeah, definitely turn that off.
Yeah. It's all good. All right. So I think for now, it's fine. You know, all the audience can join in and chat and talk with us. I think that's fine, right? If people want to join in, then you can unvideo, you can show your video, you can turn on your mic, you can have a chat with us. And then at 5:15, we'll turn everything off. So it's only the presenters. Oh, keeping video on, right?
We're keeping video on.
People.
Hi, Katie.
Aga!
Oh, hey.
It's the Nerd Night Mama. Do you want to say something, Aga? At the start of all the presentations, you can give a little introduction for everybody.
I don't know. I'm shy now. I don't know. I'm really excited to tune in because it's been 2 years.
I know.
It has. Too long. Crazy.
So for those who don't know, Aga was the person that started Nite Kansai, right? You started it and then you left us.
Yeah, after one.
Well, thank you kindly.
Yeah, but it's I'm really excited that you guys are running it. It's so cool. So yeah, how has it been going?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's been going really well.
All things considering, I think. Oh, hold on. Got to do something before. Where's my mic?
Yeah, I know. We need to do a cheers. We should get everyone to turn their video on. Do a cheers at the same time.
Well, it's 10 a.m. here, so I'm just having tea.
Well, it's 5 p.m. somewhere.
Well, yeah.
It's weird. Is that because of your... I don't know.
We are not sponsored by Yona Yona.
Yeah, no, this is sheer coincidence.
Yes, it's just sheer coincidence. I should have gotten Corona beer. They were doing a sale of was it 5,000 yen a case or something?
Ah, there you are. Okay, now I can see everybody. Is there a way to put it in a gallery mode so I can see that grid with everybody's faces?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Let's see.
Top right, just above the.
Somebody needs to mute their audio or put in earphones.
Feedback.
Yeah. All right, now I can't see.
That was my fault. That was definitely my fault.
You're in?
All right.
Oh boy. Okay, seeing a lot of people here. How many people we got so far?
4, 5.
16?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Abby. Let's see audio happening now here.
Well, anyway, cheers.
Yes, cheers.
Do you want us to turn our audio on?
Cheers.
For the time being?
For the time, well,
yeah, I think for now we can have audio on, right?
Yeah, just put some earbuds in if you can, because you end up getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah. Me and Matt are trying to figure out both doing it in the same room, which is making some problems. So we've mic'd one for now.
Wait, hold on. I can actually check the live stream on my iPad here.
Yeah, it's going. I can see it going.
It's going?
Anyone, if you have any problems with audio or anything, type a message in the chat and we'll try and figure it out.
Chat's on this side for me, but and oh, okay, we're going.
All right, it's still the kanpai is still hanging. Are we gonna go with that?
Okay. Oh, we have actually, hold on, 13 people on
Wow.
13 people on the YouTube as well.
Oh, really? Nice.
The YouTube.
I've been told my folks are watching as well, which is
Aw,
embarrassing.
Raymond, how old are you?
Hello, Yokozuna, if you can hear. Okay, mid kanpai.
Kanpai.
Kanpai? Kanpai しましょ
Okay, well, okay, yeah. Let's do everybody can turn their video on if they're wearing pants. And we can do a virtual kanpai. Let's see if I can get a screenshot of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Katie, would you like to do the honors?
All right. What do we do? Would you say no? Or like, ichi just like, okay, kanpai!
Kanpai!
Night, night, night.
Good
Woo!
night.
Thank you, everybody. Yay.
Okay, for some reason I couldn't take a screenshot of that. Shit.
Ah,
Okay, there, I figured that out.
nice.
Okay, so the YouTube live stream is in about a 20-second delay.
Mm.
So that's just for the people online. We have somebody saying it sounds good, so that's good.
Nice. Is that okay now, Matt? Can you hear?
Both times.
Oh.
Yeah, and right now, for people on the Zoom call right now, if you on the YouTube stream, the person where there's a little camera at the top right corner that shows up, and that's who's ever speaking or whichever sound comes up right now. So right now I see myself, but if Katie starts speaking, it'll switch to Katie's camera.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Mm.
Okay,
At least
so
in
what is there?
20
What should we talk about before our first speaker starts?
Okay, I think we can go through just the ground rules, I suppose. Ground rules. Just what's going to be happening. I guess we can. Yeah. Okay. It's 5:10, so we'll start talking about this. Okay. So everybody, I'm happy to welcome everybody on our Zoom call and everybody on the YouTube to our very first Nerd Nite Kansai online. But it is our 13th Nerd Nite Kansai, thankfully. We have a lot of special guests here, especially like Aga, who started the actual Nerd Nite Kansai, and Agathe, all the way from France, who will be speaking today. Basically, what we're going to be doing is our standard Nerd Night event. There's going to be drinking, there's going to be conversing, and we'll have 3 nerdy speakers speaking for us today. In about 5 minutes, Killian will be our first person up. It's a 20-minute talk and then 10-minute Q&A. Questions and answers are generally going to be from the people on the Zoom call. If you have a question, go to your chat function and type in hand up so that we can call on you. During the actual presentation, please everybody have their microphones muted. But in the 10-minute break in between the talks, you're welcome to have your camera on. You're welcome to have your audio on. Just be careful. We don't want a lot of feedback about that. Just as an introduction, I'm Raymond Terhune, one of the organizers of Nerd Nite Kansai. And Where's Katie? Katie, if you
Yeah.
speak, you'll show up.
Yep, so I am Raymond's co-organizer, so we've been working on this together. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, hope everyone enjoys the show. I hit one or two people were getting a bit of feedback with the audio, so just make sure to keep your mic muted unless it's like the 10 minutes between speakers, and wear headphones, please, so that we don't get any feedback. Okay, and if you have any questions or anything, you can type them in the Zoom chat, and then we can talk without having any like problems and interference and stuff. But yeah,
Alright.
the other thing was maybe, so since this is a free event, obviously we can all enjoy this and have a good time. But if you have some extra cash right now, I know a lot of people don't because this is really tough. You can think about maybe using that 1,000 yen to get some food and support local businesses, for example, Lingua Cafe in Osaka or Urban Guild in Kyoto. Or you could donate to a charity, a COVID charity, and we would really appreciate if you could do something like that. Okay, I think that's it.
Yep, yeah, I think that's the slide right now.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay.
Okay, so we have about a couple of more minutes. So if you haven't already, crack open a drink of your choice. And we'll get started in just a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, Raymond, your mum's watching the YouTube stream. She says,
What?
yeah, Raymond, your mum is watching.
Oh no. Now there's some there's a bunch of pressure now.
Yeah. Oh, she's gonna find out her son is a nerd. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Never will happen.
He's organizing a wonderful event, being so productive.
I'll send the link to my family later, but there is no way. Well, if any of them are awake in America right now, something is wrong. So,
It's 1 a.m. on the West Coast.
Yeah, sadly, everyone in the
Yeah,
UK
it's a
is asleep,
little-
I think.
it's a little, what is it? It's now then, so it's 4 a.m. for half my family and 3 a.m. for the rest.
Sent the link to James, but I think he's out for his birthday. Just by the way, Ray.
Yeah, can he access
Who's
Zoom
that?
in
Who's out on their
China
birthday?
or?
He has a VPN.
Okay, sorry, that's Abby. I went to college with her, and we have a friend in China right now, but he's probably partying away. Okay, well, I think we are at a good point of introducing our first speaker. So I am going to stop I'm going to stop my screen sharing right now. And oh wow, look at all these people online. This is great. And so, oh good, and it shows up as the grid on Zoom. Okay, Killian, who is situated on my right here. That when I see it, it doesn't look like on the stream actually. Killian, if you would like to start your talk,
I'm ready.
Yep, like I said, it's 20 minutes. You'll get a minute. At minute 18, you'll get a warning.
I have my iPad next to me, and I'm going to start the stopwatch also. But I mean, not that this is foolproof.
Mhm.
So do stop me if I overdo it.
Absolutely. And so, without further ado, introduce our first speaker, Killian. Take it away.
All right, you guys, so you got it? The screen's up? All good? Excellent. All right, hello. Despite the way it was advertised, so here's the unofficial title of this talk. Something, what on earth do mathematicians even do? And what I aim to answer is, of course, a small slice of what one mathematician kind of does. My name's Killian. I work here in Kyoto, the Hiroka Laboratory. それとも、なんという。何々数学者は何をしますか? So here we go. First, because let's hold off just a little bit. Here's where I come from. I'm from New York, but I would like everyone to know that there's a lot more to New York than just the city. The city's wonderful, But there's a whole other state, not other state, oh dear, that was a slip up. There's a whole state in addition to the city. And in fact, I lived 7 hours away from New York City by car, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I went to school up here at Potsdam University, which was a wonderful place. But without zooming in on this map, I realized I couldn't actually pinpoint where it was. We were up in the Adirondack Mountains, and I found out when I was there that Fahrenheit and Celsius degrees are the same at -40. And the way I found out, well, I mean, I will leave that to your imagination. It was a great time. And then I went to graduate school in Missouri. If you don't know where Missouri is, it's okay. I did not either. When I finished driving through Ohio, I was pretty sure I would reach Missouri. I was wrong. I reached Indiana. Then I was pretty sure I would reach Missouri, and I was wrong. I reached Illinois. This was a 17-hour drive, and I did it twice, and twice was 2 times too many. But yeah, it was a great time. I was there for 7 years. And then I did this, and now I'm here working in Japan, and it's awesome. So yeah, and by way of slight delay, thanks to Raymond and Katie for asking me to do this, and thanks to everyone who's here listening in. Because now here we go. Hello, this is mathematics. My really crappy rendition of the person from the Scream painting is not meant to represent you, it represents me. This is how I feel about my own field of work most of the time. I really like it, but liking it does not mean it's not generally completely terrifying. So here we go. Here's a little bit about some particular math I happen to do in, a small corner of something. So I put this in here. This is, I don't know, who do I think I am, right? Oh, what is math to me? But I kind of felt like I wanted to pose a little bit of an answer to that question. And for me, math is just formalizing how our intuition about the world and the way everything works actually relates to how things really do work. That's it. Try to find out those rules, try to find out when they match up, when they don't, and go from there. So let's go straight into an example. What is this? Well, okay, maybe most of you sit there and say, oh, well, that's a capital B, but without the lines. You just have like, if I did some connect the dots, it would be a capital B. Okay. Maybe you didn't see that, or maybe what would happen if you had a friend sitting next to you who's like, I don't get what you're talking about. How is that a capital B? I don't see it. How would you explain that to that person? How would you appeal to their intuition using your intuition that, I mean, it's a capital B. I don't really know how to say that. And then if you could explain it, could you actually formalize it? And one thing that maybe some of you would think of as an answer is a sort of, well, if you zoom out, figuratively speaking, or in this case, literally, if you get far away and kind of squint, it looks a lot more like a B. It's only when you get to this scale that you're like, oh, come on, that's just a bunch of dots roughly assembled into the right shape. Well, let's see if we can sort of formalize an answer and use that zoom in idea. Oh, so can it be formalized? Yes. And that formalization in this case is called persistent homology. All right, how do you do persistent homology? You start by drawing circles around every point in your data set or in your picture. If 2 circles overlap, we're going to draw edges between those points. That's it. We're going to start with really small circles, and we're going to gradually grow the size of the circles and see what happens. So you get a little bigger, and now I'm mixing it up a little. I'm not only drawing edges, but if 3 circles overlap together, let's draw a solid filled triangle. You can obviously take this further, and if you have 4 overlapping circles, 5, 6, 7, you can make all sorts of higher dimensional shapes. But for this example, we just need lines and triangles. And I keep alternating between slides with the circles and without the circles, because the circles are just kind of a guide for how we construct this shape. But this shape here with the points, the edges, and the triangles are all we care about. Okay, let's actually back up a second. what happened here, something kind of interesting happened. We reached a circle size where we connected the perimeter of this square, but the circle is not quite big enough to actually fill it in with triangles. So we have like a perimeter cut out, but the inside is not filled. This is one of the things that persistent homology looks at. It looks at holes or gaps in your data set. Of course, very quickly that gets filled in, but now we have a big gap at the bottom and a little further on the circles, and we have the two obvious gaps in this data set that come from the upper and lower part of the capital B. And even when we keep growing the circle radii and keep filling things in, the two gaps remain for a pretty long time. And of course, when the circles get big enough, everything's connected, everything's filled in. Okay, so the original picture where all the points are separate is basically fully zoomed in on this shape. We're just looking at it as separate points. This right here is fully zoomed out. It's just a very distant blob where we just view it as one clump. Right in here is what kind of fits with our intuition. This is sort of the correct scale to view this object. It gives us this capital B shape. So how do we move from a bunch of separate points to a filled in blob? Oops, only meant to hit that once. Well, here we go. This is a barcode diagram. The vertical axis has no meaning, but the horizontal axis is scale or radius of those circles. Small radius, very limited connections. A little bigger, all the way until fully filled in. What these bars represent is gaps in the data. One of these bars starts when a gap is fully closed, the perimeter is fully closed in, and this bar disappears when we actually start shading everything in. So we already talked about this. It's a gap very, very briefly. You connect all the edges, but very quickly you actually fill in the triangles, and so this hole disappears. Around here, a little earlier and a little later, we have the bottom and top of the B getting connected, and for a very long time, those two gaps remain until they are finally filled in. So these small things are considered noise. They're just accidents of the data. When you're sampling data in any sort of science, you get sampling error from the machinery or whatever, and little things like this appear. A small region is closed in just before it's filled in. That doesn't really matter. These, however, are persistent, there's the name, features of this data set. So we didn't have to pick a scale to view our data. We actually viewed it over all scales at the same time. And then this picture tells us, oh, well, the two most interesting features of this data set exist at around this set of circle sizes or these scales. So maybe this isn't the necessarily correct size to view the data, but it's a place to view the data where the most interesting things, homologically speaking, homology just, it means holes. So when you're looking at holes and gaps in your data, this is the region you want to look at. This is the region where it's sort of correct to view it. Ta-da! We've kind of formalized that these shapes right here are the correct way to view that set of points. Of course, in general, sets like this you might not have one correct scale to view it. You might have interesting features of all sorts of sizes, but this is essentially the basic idea of persistent homology. And now I'm going to do a hard break to the other thing I do. But the unifying thing between these two is that I like working on things that establish visual intuition for what you're working with and allow you to well, whatever. I mean, that was it. Visual things and restoring your intuition to the abstract set of data that you're working with, I think is really important. So here's my conspicuous white slide to denote that I'm moving on to another topic. And this time I just want to talk about another way of visualizing data using an experiment that I'm actually working with some biology people on. So hey, inside of a cell, it's got a DNA strand going on. And there's a ton of information about this thing. There's so much chemical stuff going on. Chemical stuff. Clearly a biologist right here, which I'm not. And if you are, I'm deeply sorry. Briefly, what do you do with this cell? What is the lab of the friends I'm working with? What do they do when they get a cell like this? They cut it up into pieces. The chemical process for that is actually pretty cool, but I don't really understand it, so I'm not even going to try. And each of these little segments that you cut the cell into, you can get chemical measurements from. So all of these segments have a sort of, these are the names of markers, epigenetic markers that they're called. Tons of ways you can measure some qualitative value from this cell. What those markers mean is one of the most interesting questions. How they relate to cell function is incredibly important if we can figure that out, because you can get huge insight into, well, everything. Cells basically determine most of physiology, right? So well, I should stop talking now while I'm ahead, right? Okay, boom, you got all these markers. Okay, you've got this other thing over here, compartment score. And this is kind of weird because this is sort of an emergent property that when biologists were analyzing this cell data, compartment score kind of came out naturally. And when they assigned this value to various segments along the cell, it had some really strong correlation with a lot of interesting features. What's important to note, though, is that you can measure compartment score, I believe, directly. You do not measure compartment score from these markers. They happen to relate very strongly, which was a pretty recent result in the literature and a pretty powerful one. But you can measure these, you can measure this, that neither of them are deduced from the other. But let's just take a quick look at how we can visually show that these things actually have a really strong relationship. Well, there's a bit of a problem. What kind of data am I actually looking at? Well, I cut that cell, I don't. My coworkers cut that cell into about 2,000 pieces, and those markers that they measure for each segment, they measure 14 or more of them. But this particular data, they just gave me 14. Here you go, 14 markers for every single segment along this cell. Okay, so I get data that is 2,000 entries tall and 14 dimensions wide. Our brains, at best, can get a hold of three-dimensional stuff. So how on earth do you visualize because why do you want to visualize? You want to visualize because you need ideas. You need to apply your intuition. Data is just sitting there in a lump. What do you do? How do you start? You need to be able to see it. So the first thing you can do is you can just cram 14 dimensions down into 2 and lose a ton of information, but you can see it. That's what these are. There's 2 different methods for projecting. There's more, but here are 2 of them. PCA and UMAP. I know what this one stands for. I've forgotten what this one is. Let's see how well they did. And here's what we're going to do. Let's color all these data points by 1 dimension at a time. So for example, K4ME1 is one of the markers that can be measured. So it was one of the original 14 columns of this huge list of data. So even though we compressed those 14 dimensions down to 2 just so we could visualize it, this is actually kind of nuts. This one of the 14 dimensions, if you color the points by the original value in that dimension, it's an incredibly smooth progression from low values to high. Like good on PCA for compressing 14 down to 2 and not losing. Well, I mean, like it lost a lot, but this is still really smooth. Same thing down here. You get this high values, low values, really well clustered. Here's another one, K9ME3. You can see that this one is a lot less smooth, but it's still not too bad. Here's the high values, here's the low values. Same thing here. You can see those going. Now here's the cool one. Remember that compartment score thing that doesn't come from these, but it's very heavily related to them. When I shoved those 14 dimensions down to 2, compartment score was never included. The data here has never seen compartment score, but I know from a different list exactly what the compartment score of every point is. And if we shade by that, that's pretty amazing that the shading here is also really, really smooth when it never saw compartment score on the way to this point. So this is just, what was the whole point of this? Here's like a long way around to show, visually speaking, the incredibly strong relationship between compartment score and this average of all these other markers compressed from 14 down into 2. And then, so this is just some basic data analysis math. The thing that I actually work on is similar, but what it tries to do is not project all the data points into 2 dimensions. It turns the data points into a graph. It locally clusters a bunch of points. It says, okay, make a cluster here, cluster here, cluster here. And if those, it allows you to cluster and have some overlap between those clusters. If they overlap, you draw edges between them. That's a huge generalization, but the cool thing about this is that a graph gives you, how should I put this? I'm showing you a picture of this graph in 2 dimensions, but I did not jam 14 dimensions down into 2. A graph does not really have a dimension. So all of the connections, so these points are all flattened out on the page for you, but maybe this point here actually has edges connecting to like this batch of points over here. And when we actually do analysis on the graph, we can capture that information. And so you get this cool, nice way to visualize, but you don't actually sacrifice the global 14-dimensional structure of this image. And I just find that really interesting to work with. I like being able to see things. I like being able to apply my visual intuition. Like, I want to know, why are there these 2 regions of low valued compartment score here and here? Why do they sort of spread, you know, oh, I look at the picture and I get ideas for how to investigate further. And I want to give those ideas back to the biologists, have them say, oh, that's super interesting. Now I have like a sharper question for you that you can pursue in the future. And that's the kind of math I like to do. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Killian, and not going over too. Good work.
I told you I'm in mathematics academia. I'm very sensitive to this.
Well, usually in the case of like academics, they don't even care if there's even a time limit happening.
No, they do not.
Okay, so we're going to open the floor for Q&A. So if you have a question, please like write into the chat and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
How?
Okay, Katie has a question.
I have a question. So you said that you work with biologists, but can you tell us like a more specific, like a practical use of how this kind of data, like helps the biologist? I think it would help us understand it a bit more if we can see like the really practical uses of it.
Yeah, so the goal of this, of sort of connecting, all right, so the part I guess I did not include in this, but on top of the picture that I was showing you, our actual concern is, how does all this information relate to the actual 3D structure of the genome? Because even though it's like a linear strand, when it folds back and gets close to itself, chemical interactions actually really affect how the DNA constructs the cell. My God, again, I'm so sorry to biologists. So if we can start getting, we can get the marker data, the epigenetic markers, we can read those relatively easily. If we can read those, relate them to 3D structure, and actually relate those to cell function, then that's sort of an inside out way to figure out what's going to happen with, this sounds equally like I'm bragging, but also like a cop-out. The cell function thing could lead to just about anything. Understanding mechanisms for diseases, understanding mechanisms like cancer that are like self-destructive or mutating. one thing that was mentioned like in a conference, not for this direct project, but with understanding cell function from some mathematical perspective, was they kind of know why the flu vaccine very generally like just doesn't work for a pretty large percentage of people. And it's just because it's not triggering the right construction in certain cells. There are certain cells in your body, I guess, that just wait to receive instruction and they turn into whatever you need. And the flu vaccine usually just tells them to make the right stuff, but for some people, it just completely misses. And they want to know about the actual cell function that causes that construction process so they can figure out why the vaccine misses with like a large percentage of people and how to fix that. That's
okay. So like very generally, it's about understanding the functions of part of the genome so that we can like use that for all different kinds of stuff.
We are working, our project is not some specific application right now. It's just trying to get this connection between epigenetic markers and cell function.
Okay, thank you. Good answer. Okay, so I think Matt was next. If we look at the chat, so if you type hand up and then, yeah, we'll turn on your camera and microphone and then you can ask a question. So I saw Ricky as well, you typed your question in the chat, which is also fine, but Matt's gonna go first because he was the first one to type hand up, right? So
okay. Oh yeah, so is that the next one then?
Yeah, so the next question is Matt, so I will see.
One of the most interesting results. My first my first answer to this is I actually basically just started this like 3 or 4 months ago. So most of our conversations so far have been very exploratory. I show these guys, I'm like, okay, I hurled stuff at a wall, tried to get some visual understanding out. But the most interesting thing so far, I think, has been in this particular laboratory, these guys have like they can trace like the progression of germ cells in your body, which are not like invasive disease, like germ cells. Goddamn, like they're just like a kind of cell in your body that makes stuff that you actually need, even though germ initially to me was like, oh, isn't that bad? And I was able to make graphs kind of like this last one. Well, I mean, exactly this last one, relating to all the 5 stages of like their current cell development pipeline in their laboratory. And they were super interested to see how these regions moved around and what the different graphs look like. And one of the things we're going to try to chase down next is sort of follow the movement of certain regions, certain bins of the cell that are of particular interest.
Okay, nice.
You're welcome.
He looks appreciative. Okay, so then next we've got Ricky. So yeah, Ricky, you can either turn on your mic if you wanna like say it out loud, so then we have a bit more connection, which is nice. Or yeah, we can just read off your question in the chat. It's fine.
Okay. So thank you. It was very interesting. Yeah. So my question is, it seems what you do is taking mathematical models, applying to a set of data to find relationship patterns, and also to visualize it for the ease of understanding for you and like the anyone who collaborate with you with this set of data. So is this specific to the field of mathematics you work in, or is this what mathematicians do in general?
It is the first one, quite strongly, in fact. This is sort of like a personal, I find this kind of mathematics far more fulfilling than some of my, I didn't radically change direction on the way here, but there are other ways I could have gone that I did not find nearly as interesting and just immediately rewarding as this very strong emphasis on visualization. So the visualization emphasis here is completely personal and is a bit intrinsic to the kind of math I do. The guy who wrote a lot of papers in our field, Gunnar Carlson, I actually saw a presentation by him right as I was getting into this kind of mathematics a while ago, where he talked about his personal view on how important visualization was and how I don't think he said it quite this strongly, but mathematicians shouldn't really get so caught up when they're trying to work with people in the sciences with being very technically so obsessed with technical correctness and maybe finding all these abstract results when the intuitive understanding of things is really important. And I think I took that to heart pretty strongly. So this, yeah, it's a passion / this particular slice of mathematics sort of answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, nice. And then if we're doing okay for time, then I think Aga was next.
Okay, 2 more minutes. And
Two
I had
more
a
minutes.
question. I had a question too.
Oh no,
but,
you did.
It's okay. Let's go to Aga first.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have kind of silly question. I was just wondering, like, what does your day-to-day look like? That was a really interesting talk. So I'm just wondering, like.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
My day-to-day is at its most fun, it's me sitting down and I have sort of my half Python, half various other software like workflow set up from working in the past. And I'm like, all right, I have some leads that I want to try. And I'm in this particular type of mathematics, I'm just going to see what comes out of it. There's reasons for going down certain paths, but largely it's just there's a lot of see what happens with the visualization kind of approach. And honestly, on the best days, I'm talking to people a lot. I personally am, my the quality of my output as a mathematician increases by an amount I can't really measure when I'm working with other people versus alone. So even now in the current situation, like we're having Zoom meetings daily, just for even very casual ones. Like these biology guys fortunately are down the hall from me. So sometimes they just stop by. They're like, hey, what have you been working on? Hey, here's what I was thinking about. And just that conversation leads to some sort of wild ideas, but also there's like a bit of justification for going for them instead of them just being completely off the cuff. And that's definitely, yeah, that's when I like it the most, is when I'm talking with people and just kind of combining the things I know and the things I've seen to try to see what would happen if I did something new. I don't know if that helps. The other answer is I sit in front of my computer. But yeah, there you have it.
Okay. Thank you, Aga, for the question. And with that is 10 minutes for the Q&A. Honestly, if you have any other more questions, Killian is going to be here and the chat is open. So you're welcome to ask him additional questions. I think I'm actually going to be sending him a chat about some questions here, ask some complaints on biology. And so
I am not qualified maybe to answer that one, but okay.
And
yeah, please do.
So
yeah.
We will be back in 10 minutes then introduce our next speaker. All right.
So I think this next 10 minutes can be like a free-for-all. So if you want to turn on your video, turn on your mics, have a chat, or just, use the chat to talk to each other, yeah, go ahead. And obviously, go to the bathroom, get yourself another drink, and then we'll have our next speaker in 10 minutes, 55.
I actually have additional questions to Killian, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So if this is specific to what your field of mathematics, then is there like a general how should I say, like a theme to what all mathematicians do or work on?
Not one per se, but only a couple. So one of those divisions that's not official, but that everyone uses is pure and applied math. There's, of course, as with all binary separations, a huge amount of gray between those, but pure math is, I guess, like largely concerned with working completely with the abstract structures, seeing what else can be deduced from them. But even there, even when people do that, even when that stuff seems completely ungrounded, it's still an attempt to try to formalize some kind of, okay. On personal opinion, it's some attempt to formalize some kind of abstract idea. And a lot of these things go off the premise that they're creating results that are very abstract that maybe many years later down the chain will actually lead to some applied breakthrough. And that happens maybe to the outside observer surprisingly often, that some completely abstract, like a paper in mathematics that you could show to you or to me that every single word was completely meaningless. It's just, what on earth is this talking about? A decent number of those papers have chained down to incredibly useful applied results. But then I guess the applied side of mathematics focuses less on abstract achievements and more on directly advancing some project or something. I kind of transitioned from the pure to the applied because the applied, I just found, my boss is very, very passionate about bringing that sort of thing together. And all the members of our laboratory come from a really diverse set of backgrounds. We're all mathematicians, but I think I in Japanese academia maybe, or at least just where I am in particular, I see a very large range of experience and interest, and that's just really cool to me. My boss in particular has built a really nice spread of things, and so I was leading somewhere with that. I'm sorry. I like the idea of working directly on a certain project, but that does not negate the value of the abstract achievements as well.
Hey, actually have something I wanted to ask about your.
Go for it.
Thing. You show data that you get genomic data in 14 different dimensions, and PCA analysis kind of just flattens all that down.
Yeah.
And that's technically the only way we can actually visualize it on paper or something. Are there actually other avenues that you can kind of like expand into it, using 3D model, like having a 3D model of it all, and then kind of, put it inside a space where you can move it around and whatnot?
Yes. So, I mean, on a very, very basic level, 3 dimensions actually holds a lot more information than 2. So I was showing 2-dimensional ones because I was not going to figure out how to embed rotatable, movable 3D objects into my presentation. But I'm only speaking to a small window of experience. Like, there are, from some other math groups or fields of mathematics, but also hugely from the sciences, some incredibly creative visualization frameworks. A lot of them, however, are very, very, very specific. So if you are a biologist of this exact cell type and this exact consideration, people have constructed really expensive, really complicated, really, really valuable frameworks that work for exactly their type of data and basically nothing else. So I think I kind of have like an idea that I want to work on things that are specific projects, but with a slightly more general view of making something that is a little global. But in general, so sorry, I left like the 3D part of your question in the dust pretty quickly.
It's possible and people do it, but still not as expansive as, like, not everybody can use it, I guess.
I mean, in general, when you're going to reduce, so it's this weird paradox where you have to reduce dimensions because any way you get your hands around data and anything you want to do with it, the computational requirements go up with respect to dimension horrifically fast. So fast that it does not matter like what level of computing gains we make as a civilization. There are some things that will just be qualitatively out of our ability to handle for any foreseeable future. So I mean, it's amazing how quickly some of this stuff just blows out of proportion. So you have to reduce dimensions, but when you do, you just lose that information. Mapper, the last thing I mentioned, Mapper, the thing I actually work with, is actually really cool because it projects the data down, chops that space up into pieces, comes back to the original space and says, okay, take all the things here that went into that piece. Now let's locally cluster that. Now let's locally cluster this. So it uses a projection to help it decide how to cut things up. But it actually does all its clustering and connecting in the original amount of dimensions. So it kind of does this mix of local and global structure. I mean, of course, I'm espousing this thing's properties because it's what I use, but I think it's really neat. Not only does it have a really cool visual impact, like when I show these graphs to the biology guys I'm working with, they get questions, which is like my favorite thing. If I show you a picture and you have just questions about that picture, I'm like, oh, by accident maybe, but I did something right. So,
well, so the biologists, it means that these biologists kind of look at this and can intuitively see like, oh, there's some kind of inherent connection because they've given you data about certain properties of the genome or certain kind of interactions that they have.
That's exactly what I want.
The hypothesis I had that these series of genes or this kind of reaction actually mediates and connects to this part of the other cell function.
No, you're getting it exactly. Like they explain as much to me as they can, and they do a great job of it. But like, I mean, I'm just getting the skeleton of it. They have all these years of experience. They have all these intuitions already. And so when they see something, like you just said, they already have questions in their head. And they're like, oh my God, that looks like it relates to my question. Oh man, I want to know what's going on. All right, hold on. Actually, quick.
We have a bunch of questions, but we only have 48 seconds until the next one.
Machine learning is not quite blasphemy. Machine learning is really interesting. I so recommend the book, You Are a Thing and I Love You. That is my favorite book about machine learning I have ever read. It's hilarious, and it's an incredible breakdown of what machine learning does well and what it doesn't.
Write that in the chat later,
oh my
please.
God. You Are a Thing and I Love You. The author made a neural network to write pickup lines, and it came up with that. That's the premise of this book.
Oh God, that's great.
Machine learning is super powerful and super abusable if you think it applies to places where it doesn't. But no, my advisor has almost become like a machine learning master.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the questions. If
10 minutes up,
I have time later, I'll try to. Well, I'll do some typing.
Yeah, check in the chat, and we got a couple more answers here.
Yeah, we can do the other questions and answers maybe in the other 10-minute breaks, or just
Thanks
after
so
the
much.
chat if people want to keep talking.
Oh, no, but with Misaki's, she'll probably get a lot of questions too.
Right. Okay, so it's time for Misaki, right?
Hi. Should we switch to Japanese since you're going to do everything in Japanese?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
はい、聞こえます。
はい。
では次は大内田さんからよろしくお願いします。今回次は日本語で行われますので、質問は英語で受けられるんだっけ？
大丈夫です。
はい。では、美咲さんよろしくお願いします。
お願いします。
それでは始めさせていただきます。ここから基本日本語で時々英語でまとめつつ話していく予定です。京都大学でサイエンスイラストレーターをしている大内田美咲と申します。Hi everyone, I'm Misaki Ouchida, a science illustrator at Kyoto University. Before starting my presentation, I would like to show 5-minute film that conveniently introduce myself. Okay, let's try. Can you see this? Is it okay?
Yep, we can see it. Let's hope we don't get tagged on YouTube.
It is Japanese short film. So just before this pandemic, I participated in Kyoto Marathon, and I was featured as one of general participants to show on TV program. Since marathon is actually related to my later talk, please bear for the 5-minute. And 実は2ヶ月ちょっと前、まだ世界が平和だった頃に、京都マラソンに参加しまして、その時一般ランナーの一人として関西テレビの取材を受けました。で、実はマラソンが今回の話に絡んでくるので、まずはご覧ください。
Is your audio connected?
Yeah.
Can we? Did you make sure you share your audio?
Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay.
30キロ地点の鴨川河川敷。直線ですが、この日は雨でぬかるんで足を取られやすくなっていました。きついです。きついと言いながらも水分補給もして笑顔で走っているこの女性。実は京都大学 iPS 細胞研究所の職員、大内田美咲さん。勤務ということですが、パソコンで絵を描いているようですね。
研究に関するイラストでして、研究内容を一目でわかるように絵に起こしてます。特に最近もうビジュアルでもうパッと見わかるようにする傾向がSNS とかの普及で増えていったような気がします。
iPS 細胞はまだ研究途中で医療関係者ですら知識がいるもの。技術を広めるためにはイラストなどで分かりやすくするのがとても重要で、大内田さんはそれを任されています。
僕たちなかなかその研究実験中心に忙しいところでこのように綺麗な絵というのは難しいので。
I think this is extremely important to relay the overall message of the main message of our paper to not only other scientists but to the public.
大内田さんはサイエンスイラストレーターとしてリポートの挿絵のほか研究所の案内などさまざまな絵を描きます。こちらは魚の学会から依頼された絵。本物そっくりのこの魚。鱗も本物と同じ数で描くように発注されるそうです。
鱗の数までめっちゃ細かいやん。すごい作業やな。見て数えてみる？
そんな大内田さんがマラソンを始めたきっかけは？
所長のマラソンの応援がきっかけだったと思います。その時は全然私は走れてなくて。
iPS 細胞研究所の所長といえば、ノーベル賞も受賞したこの方、マラソンが趣味の山中伸也教授。山中教授に影響を受け、研究所のマラソン部にも所属。なんと今では部長を務めるほどなんです。
何かこう嫌なことがあったりしても一回例えば今日とか8.6キロ走ったっていう成功例が1日で成功したっていう結果が出るんでそれでリフレッシュできます。
はい、どうぞ。
この日は山中教授とイラストについての打ち合わせ。
はい。失礼いたします。
サイエンスイラストレーターとしての大内田さんについて伺いました。
はい。
ものすごい大切で、彼女たちがいてくれるから僕たちが研究活動に専念できますので、こういうの自分でもし書いてたらもうそれで何日もかかって研究どころじゃなくなるんですけども、なかなか各雑誌の表紙っていうのはそれぞれの毎月 出る雑誌、毎週出る雑誌ありますが、1回に1つの論文しか選ばれないので、ものすごい、僕も昔自分でもよく論文出した時は、何度も自分で絵を描いてチャレンジしましたが、採用されたことは1回もありませんでした。iPS 細胞の、ノーベル賞につながった論文が2つあるんですが、その時も当然2回ともこれを表紙って言って出しましたが、あっさり落選しましたので、あの時に彼女がいてくれてたら、間違いなく表紙になってたと思いますから。
恐縮です。はい。これからももっといいものが作れるよう頑張ります。はい。
いや、僕的にはものすごいいいの作ったんですよ。出したんですが、全然ダメでした。
すごいな、大内田さん。こういう人が未来の医療を支えてるんやな。
All right. Thank you for watching. So, can you believe that that was just 2 months ago? Can you? I missed that moment. Anyway, during my interview, I was asked why I do marathon, why I run, and my answer was actually related to the topics for today. I'm gonna share the. Okay. Oh. All right. で、覚えているか分かりませんが、今ご覧いただいた私のインタビューの中で、なぜ走るかについて話しました。で、実はその回答が今回のテーマと絡んでいます。which is self-confidence. I want to confess here that I think I had self-image issues. I always felt insecure and low confident and tended to be scared by the evaluation of others. But to survive this world, I needed to make a fake confidence, but I was always so exhausted. Maybe some of you can feel sympathy with me. 告白すると、私は長い間自信について悩まされていました。いつもおどおどして自信がない、他人の評価に怯える節があって、でも生き残るためには自信がある自分を演じることをしていて、疲弊していました。でも私の性格は恥ずかしがりや内向的、感受性が強いなどですが、これ自体は多くのクリエイターが持つ特徴だと思いますし、この特徴だけについては全く問題ないと思います。はじめは私の性格に問題があると思って、無理して社交的になろうとしたり、で余計疲れたり、である時は柔道を数年やってみたりしました。で柔道は精神的に強くなったと思うんですけれど、自信の向上にはつながらなかったです。すごく弱くて怪我ばかりしてました。Then for years, I analyzed myself again and again and concluded that it was the combination of my personality and the child environment that I grew up that caused my low self-image. 長い間考えて、問題は私の性格と子供の頃育った環境の相性が良くなかったと分析しています。でここでは詳しく話しませんが、なってしまったものは仕方ないということで、大人になってどう変えていくかについて考えます。Anyway, let's talk about how to build self-confidence. In the first place, do creators need a self-confidence? If needed, what point do they need and what kind of hurdles do they need to jump over? まず仕事のどの場面で自信が必要なのかちょっと整理するため、一般的なクリエイターのハードルを上げていきます。で、私、心理学は独学程度で心理学者ではないので、ちょっと私の主観による定義も混じりますが、ご容赦ください。まず、自己があります。で、自己に対して、自尊心があります。self-esteem。で、羽が生えたハートをイメージしてください。で、そのハートに、自信という風船がくっついていると思ってください。そして、2つ合体して飛びます。で、人によってハートは大きかったり小さかったりしますが、大きい方が羽が大きいので、高く飛びます。そして風船に比べると安定しています。一方で、風船は人からの評価などで時々破裂したり、しょっちゅう変わります。でまず、クライアントとのやり取りがあります。でクライアントが、Can you do it? できると聞かれて、依頼を引き受けるかどうか、まず自分で悩みます。できらっていうハードルがあるんですね。で私はそれを見よんって 飛び越えるためのハードルがあるんですけど、それをセルフエフィカシー、自己効力感と呼んでます。で、それで引き受けるとします。で、次に、これはクリエイター特有だと思うのですけど、自分の作品に対する尊重感情と、信頼感情がまた別にあるかと思います。で、クリエイターによっては、自己に対するものと全く一緒という人がいるかもしれませんが、私の場合は2つに分裂しています。で、もちろん2つはリンクしています。で、作品を世に出して、クリエイターとしてその作品の対価をもらい続けるには、作品が一般的にプロのレベルなのか客観的に判断され、自分もプロであると言い続ける必要があります。ね、私はそれをプロのハードルと呼んでます。このハードル、ビヨンって。ね、professional work to keep work going. And I'm not going to repeat this in English. The point is that there are two key components, esteem and confidence, to jump over the hurdles to being a professional creator. My image is a heart with big wings as esteem and balloons as confidence. Balloons are easy to deflate or burst, while the heart are relatively stable. What is unique for creators is that there are two hearts and balloons. One is to yourself and the other is to your work. Those two are linked. Maybe this is not universal, but this is what I am feeling at least. So, what if you cannot jump over hurdles? では、自信を失ってハードルを超えられないときはどうなるのか。で、もともと自尊心の小さい人だと、それにくっつく自信の風船も少ないので、ポーンって高く飛べません。で、自信があった人も、あるとき外的刺激、例えば他の人の辛辣な批判などで、ユンって風船が割れて、バーンと割れて、風船が少なくなって高く飛べなくなってしまうときがあって、この時もハードルを超えません。で、こうなってしまうと、もしかしたらアーティストによっては、さらにいい芸術作品が作れるかもしれませんが、少なくとも人を作品に提供して対価を得ているクリエイターは仕事を続けることができません。私もこういう時何も作れません。If you lose your confidence and could not jump over hurdles, some creators, including me, cannot keep working. So building confidence is crucial, but how? So I know many of you have had overcoming experience or maybe still struggling. Here, I want to share my experience. じゃあ、自信を失ったらどうするのということで、みんなそれぞれどうにか乗り越えたり、もしかしたらずっと苦しんでいる人もいるかもしれませんが、ちょっとここで私の経験をシェアしたいと思います。で、転機を迎えたのは、昔15年前ぐらいに院生の時に素粒子実験をしていた頃です。A turning point was when I was in particle physics world as a graduate student. I'm going to show where the experiment was. So here, right side, you see the Gojo guest house where this meeting was supposed to be held. And here's the Kamo River, you see. And the experiment that I was involved is called Phoenix, using the accelerator called RIC. It is on Long Island at New York State in the United States, same as Killian. And I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. So the famous Manhattan Island, New York City is on somewhere on the upper left. So you can see the ring, in the middle, the ring, the accelerator, in far distance, even from a satellite photo. で、その素粒子実験はアメリカの国立研究所で行われて、リックという衛星写真でも見えるリング状の加速器を使いました。で、世界中からすごい人たちが集まって、その人たちに圧倒されて、毎日自分のできなささに劣等感を抱いてました。It is a huge experiment, and I was surrounded by many bright people all around the world. And there was many times I felt my own uselessness and felt inferiority. Then there was a time I was so stressed out and went outside here. Then started walk around the accelerator. And the accelerator is about 4 kilo, so reasonable distance. And when I came back to the experimental place, I felt somehow better, and I could restart my research. From that day, I made my own ritual, that is walk or jog along the accelerator whenever I feel down, and praise myself for doing that. And I did that ritual when I went as much as I can, and almost every day. である時落ち込んだ時に加速器の上を走ってみたんですね。円周がだいたい4キロぐらいで、同じ場所に戻ることができるんですけど、やってみるとちょっと気分が上がることが分かりました。でそこでこれを儀式にすると決めました。で自分が落ちた時は加速器を走って一周回った自分を褒めるっていう儀式にしました。でほぼ毎日して記録を取っているんですけど、合計128周しました。I recorded the laps, and it was in total 128 rounds. And here's the group photo of the experiment, and there's a large collider on the background. Can you find me in the photo? Yes, and I'm in the front here. So after continuing this ritual for years, for the first time in my life, I felt I'm good enough. でこの儀式を数年続けて初めてうまくやっていると本気で思えるようになりました。で小さな自分なりの達成の積み重ねで、おそらくビヨンって自尊心がまず膨らんで、それに付随する自信もくっついてきたんだと思ってます。で最後に、もしかしたら月並みなことを言ってるのかもしれませんが、自尊心を養って自信を取り戻すのは、やっぱり小さな自分なりの達成の積み重ねだと思います。で自分なりの達成ができる儀式を作ってみることをお勧めします。So I concluded here that gradually accumulated your own small achievements are the key to grow your esteem and get your confidence back. So why don't you make your own ritual? There are important criteria. First, a small goal that you decide. ここで儀式を決める上で大切な基準があります。まず、自分で決めた小さな目標であるということ。そして、
You're at 18 minutes.
OK そして重要なことは他人を介さず自己完結できるようなもの。The second, no other interventions. And I think this is the most important. When I was a teenager, no matter how I did well in exams or I received praise, I felt insecure still. I think it was because I depended on other people to evaluate myself. And that was a bad example. 悪い例としては、誰かよりいい評価をもらうことを目標としたり、相対的に一番になるとか、誰かに褒めてもらうとか、誰かを任すというようなことは、一時的に自信がつくかもしれませんが、長期的には続かないと思っています。で最後に、自分が決めた目標の達成については、very good、とても良いよりは、good enough、これで良いで評価すること。でトライしたことが大切なので、結果はあまり気にしないでください。Last but not least, take your outcome of your try as good enough rather than very good, since self-compassion is the key to grow your self-esteem. So I think that's it. I hope this was somewhat useful for you, and I truly wish you a good luck and happy life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yay. Everybody give a clap, even if we can't hear it. Yay. Okay. Well, we have 10 minutes, so we're opening the floor for questions now. So go ahead and type in the chat. If we don't have a question immediately, I have one that a quick question while we can fill the time, if that's okay. Well, this is about the marathon one, but how many times have you run marathons, and how has your time improved through your career as a runner now?
So that Kyoto Marathon was fifth time. And
was it the 5th Kyoto Marathon or your 5th marathon?
5th marathon. It's 2nd Kyoto Marathon. And for how affect my career, you said?
How's your time?
How is my time? Okay. 4 hours and 24.
Wow.
But still, I feel the barrier between 4 hours.
Okay. Okay. We got questions coming in. First, Killian, you're up.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think that was actually really inspiring. Do you think that the ritual you find for yourself needs to be separate from your creativity? Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you are stuck in your creativity, I think make it separate is better, because so then I think simpler is better actually. And yeah, simpler and doable achievement within a day or so. So I don't know, it depends on people.
I think that makes sense. Thank you.
Next, Matt. Oh, he's written down in here, so I guess I can say it if he doesn't want to mute
I think
himself.
Matt's microphone is not working, maybe. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll just read it out then. Yeah. Have you found that the scope of your projects or esteem to do them has increased in size?
I think so. Have you found that the scope of your projects or esteem? The scope, I feel that the more I know about science, the more I know the world, and that makes me good. And I don't know if that's related to my self-esteem, but yes.
Well, if I can comment anecdotally, even within Kyoto University over the last 2 years, just the almost the near requirement of science illustrators, to work has increased. So if not the scope of the project, your workload has probably increased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not all of them are successful, I would say. Yeah. So my balloon is always burst sometimes. So the important thing is the base, the esteem, I think.
Okay, Ricky. Okay, you're up.
Thank you. That was really inspirational as well. My question is, so like, how do you, how do I put this? Like, I understand that like embracing self is important, and just being okay with good enough is good, but I often find it hard to just be okay with good enough, or defining what is good enough, even just for myself. How do you deal with this problem?
I think if you try, that's enough. So for now, for example, my current ritual is learning Chinese, and my I don't know, you can see this, but my ritual is fill all Chinese one page. But sometimes I cannot fill like 2 lines, and that's enough for one day, but that's okay for me. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, maybe it's better to set the goal very low or allow yourself very easily. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Charlotte, you can please ask your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm actually a big fan of your work, Ouchida-san.
Oh, thank you.
I've seen some illustration you've done for Saira articles.
Oh, ありがとうございます。
And I wanted to know why did you change your field? Why did you get into science illustration? And also, did you feel some kind of guilt to leave the hard science part to go into creation?
Yeah, there was a tough time to switch my major, but so my major was particle physics, then anthropology. Then I realized that whenever I learn something, I draw something on my notebook. And my supervisor at that time suggested me that, Misaki, this is your thing. You should pursue this. Then, yeah, so that's how I change. And it's still, I can still learning the cutting edge science. And so I'm happy.
Okay. Okay, wait, Matt's already asked that question. Oh, Philip.
All right. Thanks, Misaki. Good to see you again. That was great. I was actually initially going to ask Charlotte's question, so I'll go on to another one. I know with creativity, sometimes they say like the left side of the brain is the more logical side, and the right side of the brain is the more creative side. Do you feel a switch happen? Sometimes when you kind of go from when you're learning the hard science, or you're kind of engaging in that left brain activity, to when you then switch to the right brain? Do you feel it, or are there some things that you do to transition from one to the other, or do you just, I don't know, that's for you.
Well, I think, well, I didn't experience the transition, because I think I always use both. Well, when like during the science, I use my inspiration for the quality understanding, not in when I draw something, I also use the left side to logically lay out the something in the paper, or the 2D dimensional things. So yeah, I think there's no such difference between the brain part of the usefulness in science and art.
Okay, thanks.
My opinion.
That's
Could we,
cool.
thanks.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions from the YouTube, if we can ask.
From the YouTube channel, if there's time.
Katie,
So I posted them in the chats.
Yeah, Katie, you want to read up the first one that came in?
So from Katie, other Katie, she says, similar to my question, I'm wondering if Misaki has any personal creative goals or hobbies, similar to like drawing challenges, etc. Or do you think it's better to have something more simple, measurable, like running, rather than creative challenges?
Yeah, I think this is similar to Killian's question. Yeah, interestingly, my ritual is nothing to do with creativity. It's like running, learning Chinese, such things. I don't know. I feel more refreshed to do that rather than creative things, because I think for me, creative thing is my job, my work. So I want to be separate from that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think so too.
Yeah.
And then the other one was, how do you motivate or help others see the world with the same "most things are impossibility" idea? When we have self-esteem, how can we help others who are drowning in negativity enjoy the same positivity? Basically, I think like, how do we help motivate others, maybe in the same way that you feel?
Yeah, because when I was down, I cannot agree with anyone's opinion, so it's hard to say. But do something you can do in one day, and that's enough. Then you'll feel difference, I think.
I definitely think that's true. Like sometimes if you're feeling positive, you try to give that to someone else, but they're just like, you're just a positive person. I don't want to hear that right now. Yeah, it can definitely be very difficult to encourage other people without being like a pain in the ass.
Yeah, so that's why I suggest criteria. One of the criteria is decide the ritual by yourself. Don't ask other people because it's your own things and no one understands.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we are right up at the end of your time, Misaki. Thank you very much. Everybody give another round of applause. I guess we should go like this. It's yeah, the was it the universal sign for applause? Yeah. Okay, so we are going to break for another 10 minutes. Everybody, you can turn on your cameras, turn on your mics if you want to. Ask a few more questions to Misaki, and we'll be back in 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I don't really have a question, Misaki, but yeah, I really loved the whole principle of that talk, like finding something small and very achievable and very different from your work to focus on. That's something I hadn't thought about before. So yeah, I really appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
When did you film that with Yamanaka and Jantash? It must have been like December or January. Okay. And did the people actually run with you while you were running the Kamogawa route?
Oh. Then Tokyo Marathon was held. No, it was supposed to be held 1 week after the Kyoto Marathon, but it was canceled.
Yeah. So and nobody got refunded.
No, so Kyoto Marathon was so close.
How do you get into Kyoto Marathon twice? Like
lottery.
It's such a but the lottery is like such a
so I was just
so
lucky. Yeah.
Okay. No, like Yamanaka Kone.
No, no.
This was like kind of a sub question of one of the YouTube questions, but also something I feel like you kind of already mentioned. You said that drawing and illustration is work for you. So one of the little sub questions here is like, do you have a separate creative hobby that you like that isn't related to, that you don't think of as work?
Like sometimes I do write some comics.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not related to, but just for a hobby, and that's relaxing. No one reads, just me. Yeah.
Nice. So you have work creativity and personal creativity, and those can be separate things for you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So that's why I don't want to call myself artist, because I earn something from my creation.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's some people think creator and artists are identical, but for me it's not.
I see.
Yeah.
So for you, creator is the general term, but artist is person who does it just for their own sake, not as a job.
Nothing to do with commercialization. Maybe some people agree or some people don't agree. I don't know.
How often do you get to talk with scientists so that they can explain to you their concepts?
Mm-hmm. How
often do you get
How often? In iPS cell research and application, like these days, once or twice in a month, but usually once in 2 weeks. Once in a week or so.
So do the people who write articles, they come to you and they ask you to illustrate some concepts? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. And I work at the press release office, so I know who is close to the publication. So sometimes I reach for them, then suggest to create visualization.
You work with Peter too?
Yeah, Peter.
Okay. All right.
Peter was actually a past speaker as well, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, how I wanted to. He talked about working out and stuff like that?
No, he talked about iPS cells. Misaki, if it's possible, can you show some of your artwork that you've done for places like Saira? I like the, my favorite one of yours is the Eto cover for Cell.
Yes. So I'm gonna share the screen. So here, can you see this? That's my website, and for the cover, I need to update during Golden Week. So here the Eto Sensei's cover. Oh, I'm opening the cell. No, I want to see this. So first there was a work to create graphical abstract. Then from that I create the cover. And there's a two cells like megakaryocytes and platelets, and I made it as a humanize it, and also platelets to the flower, then collage, then make it like this. Yeah, I do such thing. Oops. And sometimes dogs. Yeah. And this is
why did you end up using dogs at the end?
So first, the original plan is to draw many kind of women with a different shape, because the theme of the cover is one size fit all, but drawing many different kind of women is a little bit sensitive, you know, and even I drew like pink or the purple, it's not good. So I made it diversified animal, which is dog.
That's Joseon's paper.
Yeah, Joseon, you know that.
I see.
Yeah, okay, it's close to the time, I think.
We have 3 more minutes.
Oh, okay.
So people keep asking questions. Or just talk amongst yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of had a question, not a particularly interesting one, but I think on one of your slides, maybe it was on the clip in the first 5 minutes, you had the illustration of the fish, and I think it said that like you had drawn each of the scales on the fish accurately. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it?
Who counts that?
So whenever you do your drawings, they have to be that accurate.
Ichthyologists care, and it's important for the ichthyology.
Is that like, do you enjoy doing that level of detail, or is it a bit of a pain?
Yeah, I enjoy. It's like Zen.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It was very cool. Nice.
How do you know Philip?
Can I call a question before we move on? How many minutes do we have?
We have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Quick question. Not in artists in general. I noticed for the magazine, the Cell magazine, you did 3 or 4 versions, and I guess the editor or somebody chose which one to use. Isn't that depressing, having to do every job 3 different ways? What do you do with the ones they don't choose?
I use it for my website. And I give it to the researchers, and also it's one of my portfolio, so it's fine.
Okay, because that would really neg me out, having to do every job 6 different ways and only one of them is possibly successful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My dad is a graphic designer and has a digital graveyard that is far larger than his portfolio of everything he's done that he loves that the clients thought was garbage. My brother too, he also went into graphic design and he's got the same thing. He's got, actually, so Misaki-san, does that happen to you? Do you have a favorite and do you kind of hope that one gets chosen?
Yes, always. But usually.
How often does it get chosen?
50-50 or so.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's
Interesting.
Okay, and we are at 10 minutes. So I guess we should move on to our third and final speaker, who will be Agathe. Before these dark times, we were planning to hold Nite Kansai at Gojo Guest House, and at that time, Agathe, who had been helping out with Nite Kansai for some time, was going to be leaving, and going back to her hometown of France. Thankfully, even though we've had to delay Nite Kansai for several times, we've gotten all 3 speakers, and Agathe has come in from France, from beautiful lockdown France, to talk about her topic, and so we're really happy to have her here today. So please, without further ado, give a warm round of applause to Agathe. Take it away.
Thank you. Okay, I will start sharing. Yay, thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Katie, for having me talk. Well, it's a bit from far away, but anyway, as everybody is doing online, so it's getting quite okay. So yeah, I've been in Osaka, working at Osaka University since 2.5 years, and I've just come back to France, well, in a bit more in a hurry that I should have, but it was still quite okay. So I'm so happy to be able to talk to you today about my previous work, and we're gonna check. I should put the timer on. We're gonna check how to build brain microvessels in tiny gel. So the thing that we're gonna talk about today is BBB. And what's BBB? Well, it could be Balkan Beatbox, which is a pretty nice music band that I surely recommend you to listen to. But maybe 20 minutes is a bit long to talk about it. So we're more going to talk about the blood-brain barrier. So the brain, we all know what it is. We have one in our head that we use more or less. And to be able to use it, it needs a lot of nutrients. It needs a lot of things that are provided by the blood flow. And so we have a lot of blood vessels and much more blood tiny vessels that we call blood microvessels or blood capillaries. There is about 100 billion blood capillaries in your brain. And so to have an idea, it's about 600 kilometers worth of networks of blood-brain vessel. So it's pretty huge. And if you cut your microvessel like in 2 and you flatten it on the surface and you put everything side by side, you will have 12 to 18 square meters of surface of exchange from the blood to the brain. And this surface, the wall of the blood vessels, is pretty particular in the brain, and it acts as a filter, which is in fact a barrier to protect your brain from the thing that can circulate in your blood. So hence the blood-brain barrier. It's a filter because you want some of the thing to be able to go into your brain. So of course we need oxygen in your brain, you need nutrients, so not directly sausages and potatoes, but all the vitamins, proteins, everything that you can get from your nutrition. And so that's one side, from the blood flow to your brain. You want also the garbage to be able to go out of your brain and go in your blood flow to be excreted. So I'm thinking about carbon dioxide, acidic compounds, some kind of metabolism compounds that are not so good if you keep them in your brain. So that's the basic, like what we want to enter, what we want to go outside. And there are other stuff that are able to cross the blood-brain barrier and to enter your brain, such as caffeine or alcohol that we can consume and that have those nice effects that we like, because they are able to reach the brain. And what I'm interesting also is the drugs. So of course, like psychoactive drugs, they have an effect because they are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. But pharmaceutical drugs, most of them, they cannot cross this barrier. Like if you want to be treated for stomach flu because you have some inflammation on your knees, or if you're taking medical drugs, you don't want them to be any near your brain. You don't want them to influence your brain. It's pretty damageable. So it's good because like 100% of the big pharmaceutical drugs that we use, they cannot cross this barrier. They cannot enter your brain. And of the small, tiny pharmaceutical drugs that we use, more than 98%, they cannot cross the brain barrier. So it's good. Your brain is really protected. The thing is, sometimes you want to treat actually the brain. So like if you have brain cancer, for example, if you have Alzheimer's or some mental health related to biological issues. And for those to be able to cross the blood-brain barrier, we still need to understand how can we engineer those drugs. And because as I say, the blood-brain barrier is really specific in construction. And here is a schematic view of blood tiny vessel, so in your brain. So inside my dark balloon is like a drug coming from inside the blood flow. And the question is it able to cross the blood-brain barrier, to cross those different kind of cell layer that you can see. So basically in your brain, you have one first type of cells. So cell number 1, which is called the endothelial cells, that form the wall of your blood capillaries. Those are the same than everywhere in your body. You have also blood microvessels there, and they are also wall made by endothelial cells. In the brain, they're a little bit different, but not that much. What changes in the brain is that you have a second layer of cells, which are called the pericyte. This is pretty particular to brain. There are a lot of pericytes in your eyes, some in your lung, but in the brain, they are pretty specific. And then you have a third type of cells, the astrocyte. And actually, the astrocytes look like stars with a lot of arms and legs. And what you see is the end of one of these legs. It's called a feet. Is the feet is wrapping the two other type of cells. So it's a special construction, and we as biologists don't really understand how it's working still, and we want to understand it, so we need to study this in the lab. So how to study it? This is a picture of me in my lab in Osaka University in Professor Matsuzaki's lab. And I'm touching my face with gloves, but please don't do this at home. It's just for the picture. So in the lab, we are able to culture cells. So we can have the 3 types of cells that we have in the blood microvessels. And we are able to have also some kind of matrix, because in your body, the cells, they're not just alone. There is a lot of matrix that help them to be in a good shape, actually. We don't want only 2D, we want 3D. We want it to look like a blood vessel. So the first thing that biologists did is that they put the 3 types of cells together in some kind of plastic plate where they cannot attach to the plastic. So what do? The cells, they attach to each other because they don't want to be left alone. And what's really interesting, that you get this kind of ball, it's called a spheroid. And this ball, it's actually very organized, like in blue, green, and red. Those are the 3 different kind of cells. And you can see that they don't really mix. Like the first cell, the endothelial, here in green, they stay on the outside of the ball. And then you have the pericyte and then the astrocyte. So it's pretty cool. They can organize themselves. Yet still, we have this kind of ball shape, so it's not really like a blood vessel. So we wanted to do something else. So people thought, okay, we know there is matrix in the body. We can take this matrix, we can do a little cube of gel, which is usually collagen, because collagen is like 25% of your protein in your body. So like, okay, we're gonna take this collagen protein that we know is pretty much everywhere. We're gonna make a cube of gel, and then we're gonna pick a hole inside with a needle, and actually that will look like a big vessel. And we can seed, we can put some cells inside, like the first type. And if we want, we can put the other 2 types of cells in the gel. So it works well. It looks like a big blood vessel. The thing is that it's very big. It's like 0.2, 0.15 centimeter wide. And if you try to make it smaller, it will collapse. So it's like a big blood vessel. But anyway, it's a first model. And what's interesting is if you keep this model for a long time, like actually it will start sprouting. There is some tiny blood vessels that are going out from this big blood vessel. And those are very interesting. That means that the cells then can organize and they can actually do themselves this kind of microvessel shape. So it's pretty cool. The problem is they was too short and not always open inside. Sometimes it was only like a shape of a tube, but not really a hollow tube. So we need to go further. So next step is we still take our big block of collagen gel or any kind of gel. The first time they use something called matrigel, which is a gel. We don't really know what's inside. It's come from a mouse cancer, and it's pretty. So the cell, they actually, it's what's on my first picture. The cells, they actually organized as tiny microvessels, but only on the surface of the gel. So we go further. We take some other kind of gel, and we go in 3D. It's what we want to do. And yeah, actually 2 years ago and last year, the first team were able to do this 3D model of blood microvessel. It was 2 teams, one in MIT, one in Seoul University, that managed to do that. So very, very recent. And they used some kind of microchip, so plastic chip, kind of complex with a lot of different channels. And they seed different kind of cells and different kind of gel and different kind of channel. So a bit complex, but still it was the first time that it worked for the brain microvessel, and it was yay. In Osaka University, we wanted to see if it was possible to do this like only in the gel without using the complex microchip. So the recipe is pretty simple. You take your three kind of cells, you take your matrix. So what was working after a lot of optimization is that we took collagen also, but collagen fibers and fibrin. Fibrin is actually a protein that you have in your blood. When you cut yourself, the blood is flowing and then the blood stops because it coagulates. So it's due to platelets that are in your blood, but also to fibrin. So fibrin is a pretty important protein in your blood vessels. Fibrin and collagen gel, they help the cells to organize in 3D. And after 1 week, at 37 degrees, because 37 degrees is your body temperature, the cells like that is like if they are in the body. So after 1 week at 37 degrees with some culture medium. Culture medium is basically just meat soup. We give all the proteins, all the things that the cells need to grow. And they like it so much that they arrange themselves in what we want. So at the end, you have this little disc-shaped gel. It's like a disc because I just put the gel on the bottom of a plastic dish, so they just spread a little, but it's still thick. It's like 0.2, 0.3 centimeters thick. And inside, we have the cells. So at day 1, I stain only the first type of cells because it's easier to see, otherwise there is a lot of cells everywhere. So day 1, you can see your cells everywhere in the gel. Day 3, they start to spread and do this kind of weird thing when they are looking to reach the closest neighbor. They don't like to be alone. They need social interaction. And day 5, you can see that together they start to do some kind of shape that look a little bit like tubes. And if you wait a little bit more, they will actually do those microvessels in 3D. So this is pretty cool. And you have it all over in your gel. You can take a lot of pictures, and I love the microscope that we have in the lab because we are able to just check it everywhere and to do 3D reconstruction. And 3D reconstruction, well, it's pretty cool, but it's also nice to see that those are actually open tubes that they have a lumen inside. So like this video is like if we were blood cells just going inside the blood microvessel. And we can see also that the inside is actually 8 to 10 micrometers. So it's like what we have in the brain. So small microvessel. And also another way to check it, to check what's inside the gel is just to cut the gel, to make a lot of slices of the gel. It's called histology. After you stain it, here's all the gel. You can't see anything, so I zoom. And yeah, actually in brown, those are my type 1 cells, so the endothelial cells. In blue is the matrix and the nuclei of the other cells. And you can see that you have some open microvessel. You just cut your vessel like this, and so you have open structure where the blood might be able to flow if we have a real system. So what can we do now that we have gel with tiny brain microvessels? Well, we can do even tinier gel. I like tiny gels. Why? Because I want to use them for screening. So I need a lot of time, the same thing. I use what in biology we love. It's called a 96 well plate. So it's about 100 times the same gel. So you can check a lot of different things at the same time. And here I put a lot of different concentration of a toxic compound, for example, to check if it's really toxic. Here in red, it's still my number 1 cells, so the endothelial cells, and in white is the dead cells. So the more I put my toxic compounds, the more the cells are dying. Pretty logical, but what's interesting is also to check like which concentration is actually toxic. The white cells, they are all the cells, so not only the type 1 is influenced by this toxic compound. And also you can see that the blood vessels are going to be a bit shorter and a bit thinner the more the cells die. So you can actually check a lot of things with that. And we want to do a lot of more other things. Because this model, so you have a gel with a lot of brain microvessel inside, but if you put some compound on top of it, it's actually as if you're already inside the brain. And we want also to check the blood-brain barrier. So we want to be able to perfuse, so to be able to put some compound inside the microvessels. And that's the next step we're gonna take. Also, all of this model in the lab that I show you of brain microvessels, they're all healthy model of the brain. And the next step is to understand what's happening when you have some kind of disease, what's happening to the blood vessel. And actually, like the first disease that are going to be modeled is the brain tumor, multiple sclerosis, or Alzheimer's, because there are a lot of people asking for a new solution for this disease to be treated. The brain tumor, for example, we know that it does very weird things to the microvessels, that there are some places where there are a lot more blood vessels, and there are some other places where the blood vessels are just completely damaged. So we want to be able to understand that. And the more we do a model in our lab, even if it's tiny model, the more we can understand how it works, and we can do more efficient drug which have less side effects, actually. So yeah, if you have any question, I will be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Aga. Everybody give a nice round of applause to her again. Okay, let's take questions. The floor is open. Do we already have something? Oh, okay. Killian, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I jumped right in there. Thanks so much for the talk. That was really interesting. I'm worried at the very end you actually answered the question I had the whole time. Was that perfusability about, it seems to me that it's really important to find some way to intentionally get something through the blood-brain barrier in order to deliver certain chemicals to the brain. Is that what you meant by the perfusability thing next?
Exactly, it's a very big challenge. Actually, the model that the MIT and Seoul University have in the microchip, they're able to put some compound inside the blood vessels, but only for a few hours. Then after, it doesn't work so much. And yeah, this is actually the big challenge, like how, because the blood vessel, they grow, but we don't know which direction they're going to grow. And so we want to be able to control those directions. So we have a few opportunities to help to control them, like to put more cells on the bottom or something like that. And then if you are able to control how they grow, you will be able to control how they open, so that you can just put anything inside. That's the goal. Wow. Because if you can put something inside, you can understand how it's going to stay inside or it's going to go outside. But
thank you. Yeah, that's really
challenge cool. So far.
That's really cool that the hardest thing is figuring out, like, this thing is so capable. It's like, how do we actually get anything through it? That's really interesting. Cool, thank you.
Okay, so then the next question is from Charlotte, I think.
Have you tried putting other cell types like neurons or oligodendrocyte, any microglia thing going on? Because it's also, I mean, you need to see if your compounds enter the barriers and affect the other cell types that we do have in the brain. Can we do that?
That's the next step. Yeah. Definitely what people want to have. The astrocytes, they actually kind of act a little bit like microglia. It's another type of cell that you have a lot in your brain. And neurons, they're actually very tricky to culture. So
you can do neural stem.
Definitely a next step you want.
Yeah.
You can actually, but in 3D is a little bit more difficult, and like to culture them together, you need to find a medium that it's okay for every. And so there are trial, like the MIT, they managed to do something with neurons, but not as nice as the 3D blood vessel. They went back to the previous method. So definitely it's going to be something done in the next few years.
All right.
We got it. We got a hand up from Matt. Go ahead and ask your question.
All right.
I'm going to talk this time.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Actually, so the question is, how do you actually get the scan, like the 3D scan of that sort of scale?
Actually, so we have microscope. So we stain the cells with fluorescent compounds, so with the cell fluoresce, and then we are able to take Z stack. So we take one image and we move a little up, one image a little up, and if you want a good image, it will take a lot of time. But then if you have enough image, then we can move to special software that are actually doing the 3D rendering, and then you can like just play with it. So
what is the smallest thing you can actually scan at that resolution?
Depending on your microscope, we have one that can do times 60 magnification. So with this, we can go, the resolution is like 0.4 micrometer, 0.5 micrometer, which is like 0.005 millimeter.
Cool.
So pretty close. And if you want something smaller, you will have to go to another kind of microscopy, but you cannot use fluorescence anymore. So it's more difficult to see the cells, actually.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, thank you. We have a question. I think we can ask a question on YouTube as well. Well, let's go with Martin first, and then we'll go on to our YouTube question.
I thought you had a question ahead of me.
Oh, no. I only do that to fill time, so you go ahead.
Okay, right. My question is pretty basic. You mentioned brain blood cells and capillaries and showed the diagram. You implied that there's many different types of blood vessels. Is this correct? I mean, I've heard that sometimes if you need a heart bypass, they take a vessel out of your thigh and put it in. How many different vessels are there in the body?
That's a pretty good question. I actually don't know. I know the brain one is very different because it has been found, like a student actually in the lab wanted to stain, I don't remember if it was a mouse or a rat. So it just put some, let's say, blue staining, it just injected in the rat, and it's so that every blood vessel in the rat was stained, but the brain, nothing in the brain. So it's like, oh, there is something special here. There is some kind of barrier that it cannot cross. So this is very different from the other kind of blood vessel that you have in your body.
Okay, so there may be.
So there is a big difference.
But the brain is special.
But still in the other tissue, it's always a little bit specific, but maybe not so big difference.
Okay, it allows alcohol. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, good, very good question. So let's take a question from Kat on YouTube here. I'll just read this out. Thought BBB was bok bitches for a sec. Anyway, what toxins do you add? How do you test the medications? Are they added to the diseased cells. The images are fascinating. What do you see in the future with this research? So that's a couple of questions, but let's go with the first one. What are the toxins do you add, and like, are they diseased cells or not?
So the toxin that I used was only to check if it was working. So I use an inflammatory toxin, which is TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha, very pretty cool name. And another compound that is known to like disrupt the blood-brain barrier. It's some kind of salt that you put in the blood so that it actually, the balance between the brain and the blood is different, so it needs to open the brain barrier. But if you put too much, obviously it's toxic. Because it's from the brain side, so we have to look at compounds that we know can enter the brain. So like some compounds that could be derived from disease will be a very good thing. But yeah, those are the parts that I need to talk with like real physicians, like real people looking at this disease.
Then I guess we can ask this one question. I guess you please reiterate, like, what do you see the future with this? What do you see in the future with this research? And then I think we'll do, so this question and then last question from Killian.
What I see in the future, well, we talk about this a little, so we want to be able to perfuse. So like we have some kind of mechanics thing that we can, there are actually flow system that can like just make something enter your blood microvessels for a long time, because this we can see. The thing is, the disease, they're not short, they are always taking a long time, like weeks or months to develop. So we want to be able to check how it's working for a long time. So I think that will be a big thing to look forward. And I think obviously the study will start with brain cancer, because so far it's a pretty harsh disease that you usually after diagnosis you only have 15 months to live. So we need to find new drugs to treat this disease.
Okay, thank you. And then Killian, go ahead. Last question.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that thing that everyone tells you when you're growing up, like, oh, alcohol kills brain cells, man. Is alcohol one of the special things that can just penetrate the blood-brain barrier?
Yeah.
Is that why it's so dangerous?
Well, there are several reasons why alcohol is dangerous, but
well, but this particular one that always gets passed around, like, oh, it kills brain cells. Is it something that slips right through that barrier very easily?
Yeah, it does actually through any kind of blood barrier in your body, but also to the brain barrier. But it doesn't directly kill the brain cells, but it does affect them a little.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and with that, give another round of applause to Agathe, calling in from France.
Yay!
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, that is the end of Nite Kansai number 13. Everybody,
Yay!
Pachi to all our three wonderful speakers again. And so, yes, thank you so much, everybody who's joined us on Zoom, joined us online. We've got about nearly 40 people have joined us today.
There's 20 people on the YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's the most people we've had at a Kyoto event.
Yeah. I think it's more than we've had in Osaka as well, like 38 people.
We've had, actually, not including the if you include all the participants, like we're doing that, we did do like a 39-ish, I think. But yeah, this is one of the best turnouts we've had, which is wonderful. But not so wonderful considering the circumstances. I wish we could all see you personally and not and touch everybody's faces without worrying about getting infected.
Yeah, but I think it's really good that we can find a way to connect, even though it's a shitty time. Hopefully everyone got a little bit of their like social interaction time through the event tonight. I hope feel a little bit more human today. So that's really good. I think if people want to stay on the meeting and chat and talk about anything and have like questions with the speakers or whatever, then we can just keep the meeting open, right?
I'll keep the meeting open for another 20 minutes. So we'll maybe close it at 7:30.
Sure.
I need to start cooking dinner here. And before everybody has to head out, people who want to, please turn on their. I want to do a group photo, so please turn on your camera if you want to. Grab yourself a drink or something, so that I can do a screenshot here. I figured out how to do it.
Yeah. So if everybody that's on the Zoom chat, if you feel comfortable, can you turn on your video and then we can do a picture together?
Okay. Wow, my glass actually disappears in this. Look at that. And then it's like,
I gotta get a drink.
Yeah, go get a drink, Katie.
Thankfully, I'm sat right next to the fridge. That's convenient. Okay. Woo.
Okay. Woo. Oh, that's a good sound. All right, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Stay safe, stay healthy, and drink well. Kanpai!
Kanpai!
Okay, thank you so much. We'll have these up on our social media, and the video will be uploaded on the YouTube as usual. But yes, the floor is open for the next 20 minutes. So go ahead, talk amongst yourself. If you have any more questions for the speakers, I hope they're going to be still available. And so thank you very much.
Thanks so much,
everybody.
Raymond and Katie,
Thank you so much.
Thank you a lot for putting this on. This was really fun.
No,
thank you for speaking.
Welcome.
Especially with
everyone who attended. This was really cool.
Especially with all the speakers here, we've had to kick this down twice already.
Oh, I guess there's also we have no idea what's going to be happening in May. Obviously, if things are going to be going back to normal or not. Ray, you've been talking to Nerd Night Tokyo, right, on Okinawa, so we might be doing sort of a Japan-wide Nerd Night event, which would be really cool.
We're in the talks right now. There's 2 other Nerd Nights. There's one in Tokyo, one in Okinawa, and we were thinking, well, maybe do like if the situation hasn't improved and we still have to do it on digitally, maybe do a kind of a all Japan Nado Naito essentially.
Yeah. So if any of you are interested in speaking, obviously if you work at a university or a mathematician or a biologist, that's awesome. But we also love just you can talk about anything that you're interested in.
We still want an anime nerd to talk. We've had some video. We've had the video game guy.
Yes. So yeah, if you're worried about, I don't know if I'm academic enough, just send us a message. Like really, you just have to be able to talk about something clearly and enthusiastically in 20 minutes, and that's enough. So and that tends to be like the best talks are just people that are really passionate about it. Doesn't matter how many like credentials you have or anything. And we always need new speakers, if it's going to be digital or not. So yeah, please message us.
I mean, Misaki, she's a science illustrator we had today, but and she talked about her illustration, but it was mostly about like getting motivated.
Exactly.
So you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be like a complete. It doesn't have to be your job, but you always can. If you have something that you want to talk about, you want to share, it's always you're always welcome.
Definitely.
In fact, one of our joinees here, Philip, he's a past speaker as well at our Kyoto event.
That's right. Poets are even welcome.
Yes.
Even poets.
Philip's was great. I loved it.
Oh, I wish I was there for that one.
You can find it on YouTube.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, it's poetry and atomic physics just because.
Oh yes,
that was a really interesting series as well. I mean, we had Philip, we had John, right? And then we had Rebecca also speaking. So that was a really diverse set that we had in Kyoto really that day.
And was that Rebecca that time, or was
Yes.
it? Who was the woman from Australia?
Yes, that was Rebecca.
That's Rebecca, and she's now the director of the Smithsonian.
She's the chief scientist at the Smithsonian.
Chief scientist at the Smithsonian.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's
And
wonderful. She
I saw
deserves
that
it.
news and I was like, I know her.
Have you actually met her in Australia beforehand, or did you just like know about the
I hadn't.
Australian Museum?
Just met there, yeah. But had worked at. We had some museum connections.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, super happy for her. Although I'm not happy that she has to move to Washington D.C. at this time of the year.
Yeah,
because like, everything's locked out.
To a museum where nobody can visit.
Yeah, completely closed down. Wait, did I got already a leave? Oh. Yeah, she's. Oh wait, no, there she is.
Okay, I'm going to head out now. So Ray and Katie, thanks for setting this up. And speakers, thanks for speaking.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Limey.
That's okay. I got a hash Zoom to go to now.
Oh, God, okay.
It's going to be some heavy drinking.
So it isn't, yeah, drinking still continues.
Oh, much. Okay, see you next Nerd Night.
Yes, hope to see you there.
In person, I hope, if not online.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We have a friend who actually knows about dinosaurs. Is she? I don't know if she's still there listening or not.
She knows about what? Sorry, dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, I want to talk on dinosaurs.
Yes, come on, let's talk about dinosaurs. We haven't done. We need to do bugs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you've yet to have a, what is that, a paleontologist?
A paleontologist, an entomologist.
We're recruiting. We're trying to collect them all.
Was I the first mathematician to the collection?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Nice.
You know, there's that dinosaur that they just discovered that was blind. Did you hear about that?
Did not hear about this.
Yeah, the name of it is I Don't Think He Saw Us. Sorry, I remember that. I heard that on somewhere. I don't know.
I'm gonna kick you out of the Zoom call now. I'm sorry. Thank you for your
There you go.
participation.
Thank you for coming.
Ooh, oof.
Ooh. Dinosaurs. Yeah, next to Misaki, she's probably the second like science-based illustrator that we've had so far.
Right.
Both of them had like absolutely great.
But that question, is there a lot of science illustrator? Like, is it only in a few universities, or can you be like independent science illustrator that people ask you to do stuff?
I think in-house science illustrators are very few. Usually they're freelance illustrators. And
yeah.
United States
we have one in Osaka.
Yeah, United States have the most large community out there.
It's so important, though.
And like, Misaki, you weren't hired as an illustrator initially.
No,
like, you're hired as a science communicator.
Yeah,
essentially,
communicator,
like
using
illustration. And then just happened to like be super good at art and has like a degree in science illustration.
Yeah, your position seems really cool because you have such a really extensive background in the science itself. So do you think actually, I think I thought of this question after time was up in your session, but do you think that it changes how you're able to interact with certain jobs because you have such a history in science?
Yeah, it really works good for me. Like usually researchers don't want to share paper draft to other people. Well, if I said that I know that process and I have PhD for that, so then they trust me and share everything with me.
Wow, really? So because you're familiar with sort of the need to be careful with preprints and such, that actually makes them willing to share them with you.
I believe so. I didn't ask directly.
I see. Of course, that maybe that's a bit of a weird specific thing for someone to tell you, but if that's your impression, that's really cool, actually, that they're willing to hand this stuff to you because you're familiar with the process.
Can I just say that on the YouTube, Charlotte's friend called Little Buttons just commented and saying, I am the person Charlotte is talking about. I'm happy to do a talk on paleontology.
Yay.
Oh!
And I just sent her a message like, yeah, Christina, if you're on here, please contact us through our Facebook or at the email address I've put down.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's fun.
Slime Limey can talk about the world of hashing.
Oh, yeah, Slime is Martin. That's his nickname, Slimy Limey.
Ah.
And he runs an organization called the Hash House Harriers. So our they're drinkers with a running problem. It'd be interesting to have him speak on this. Maybe make it like make it an exercise portion of Nerd Night.
We had acro yoga.
We did have acro yoga with a great demonstration.
Thank you.
Oh, and in the chat, I've actually added there's this little project that a colleague of mine did to make a pamphlet of a bunch of science illustrators we know. So this is not for like everybody, but if you're a researcher or you know of anybody who wants to do visualize science, there's this thing, and Misaki is in here as well as a lot of freelancers. I think actually all of them are freelancers except Misaki and Mindy, I think.
Oh, it looks like you can't copy.
Yeah, I'm just
Zoom
noticing
chat.
that.
Is that
really?
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's not.
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
was wondering if it was only me, but
like a
yeah, you
weird
have
privacy thing, maybe.
You can save the whole chat though. Usually,
can you?
But I don't want the whole chat.
Like, if you select it and hit like right click or
maybe because
you can.
I'm gonna head out too. So thank you, Ray, and everyone. It was really great to hear all your chats.
That's right. Abby helped translate the Japanese on that.
Oh, the pamphlet thing?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh,
it was fun. I learned a lot.
We got a question from Ricky.
Yeah.
Any book or material recommendations on like visualizations?
Apart from that one, what was it? You are a thing, but I love you. Something like that. You are a thing, and I love you.
I had it wrong the first time. You look like a thing, but I love you. Is the that book is so funny.
That sounds funny.
The author, again, it's an amazing explanation about what machine learning is good and bad at, and she makes all these neural networks trained off of various data sets that come up with like. One time I was in a conference that was very long and multiple days and my concentration evaporated and I was reading this book and I had to stop because I was at risk of laughing out loud in this talk because her writing style is very dry.
That's such a skill when you can make something so technical, something that funny.
Yeah.
I highly recommend AI Dungeon.
AI Dungeon, Matt says.
Oh,
that's a lot of fun.
Yes, that's an amazing example of machine learning. I think that almost merits no explanation. If anyone wants to know what AI Dungeon is
that the D&D AI?
Did they plug in?
We played that. That's so fun.
Yeah, it just makes up a story for you.
We played it.
It's pretty cool. As for books on actual like data visualization, math, this is not a unique problem to math, but math suffers terribly from books that are not for experts to such a degree that like if I'm even in like a parallel field, like I basically can't read it. I think maybe my best answer to that would be, maybe you can already, but learn a little bit of Python and just look up the packages people make. That this stuff is actually, you can use it before you actually know what you're doing and learn after the fact. I mean, honestly, that's what I did. I did not come at this from the mathematical perspective where I knew all the details and was like, oh, of course. I just wung it. And then I kind of got used to it. Kaggle, K-A-G, well, here we go. Kaggle.
Yeah, throw it in the chat.
They're a website that just have a ton of free open license data sets. So if you want to mess with any Python packages that are data analysis or visualization, these guys will just provide you huge sets of data that people have gathered across the internet. There's like a really weird data set that I want to mess with. I don't quite know how, is the animelist.net data set of everything people have watched, how they've rated it, any demographic information they've offered about gender, location, age, etc. That seems like an open bag for like really cool analysis. I just am not exactly sure what to do yet.
That's really cool.
Yeah, honestly, if you do that and like you can probably analyze that and sell that data to a lot of production companies.
Yeah.
Like, and then you'd have like original shit that isn't like, well, actually, you should sell it to a bunch of light novel authors first, and then the light novel guys adapt it into the anime.
But the best part about this stuff is that I think rather than a book, like, honestly, what the experts do is actually just hurl stuff at a wall and see what sticks. So the Python packages that come to mind immediately are Kmapper. I don't like, that's the one that you feed it a data set, you adjust a couple parameters, and it spits out a graph. And you're like, oh, what does that do? Scikit-learn, I think, does PCA projection, UMAP projection, and a ton of things. The documentation and the people who use it, it's very accessible. It's not the sort of thing you need to be an expert to use. And the experts wind up going and using it and needing to learn from scratch anyways. So it's a really fun field where you can just have any degree of experience from none to a lot and just explore and see what happens. It's quite cool, I think. It's also yeah, go for it.
Can I ask the like the graphs that you showed us in your presentation? Did you use a Python package to make those, or was that something that you wrote by yourself?
I used
Kmapper?
Kmapper to make those. So Kmapper is basically, it just takes the paper that wrote the mapper algorithm, it like explained it, and just implements it. And well, I mean, in the future, one of my friends and I are writing a paper that's basically meant to be what on earth is mapper and how would you use it if you have no experience thus far. We're trying to write a very completely like non-technical paper for anyone from any field to pick up and just start kind of winging it. R is interesting. I don't know it particularly, but I use a lot of packages that were ported over from R into Python. From what other people have told me who use both, when it gets to large data sets, Python gets really fast over R. And my impression, though, of both languages is that if you know how to program in general, the semantic for learning the other one is just very, very quick. To say that I learned Python always seems a little wrong to me. I just kind of, the language for doing what you want to do is just very straightforward. So
yeah, Python is what we started using in my university to teach us programming before we moved on to like C++ and other things. So it's like the baby language.
Yeah, and honestly though, with all the packages people make, you can stay a baby forever, which is great for me. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so it's 7:30 now. So shall we wrap it up?
Okay, let's wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for taking part. I'm so glad this was a success. It's really awesome.
Resounding success. keep looking at our Facebook or Twitter or our website to get notified on when the next event is going to be. Hopefully, it's not going to be too long until we can do the next event or see each other again.
Yeah, we shall see. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. 気をつけて。